There's a voice in your head right now. It's always there. It's judging, narrating, commenting on everything you experience. It whispers stories about your past, your future, and your identity. You've gotten so used to it that you think it's a part of you. But here's the shocking truth. That voice, it's not you. What if the constant chatter in your mind isn't guiding you? What if it's trapping you? What if the more you listen, the further away you get from who you really are? Think about it. You wake up and immediately the thoughts begin. What do I need to do today? Did I forget something? Is everything going to be okay? You've been conditioned to believe that thinking is what makes you alive, what keeps you prepared for life. But what if the constant overthinking is the thing that's actually preventing you from truly living? The voice that never stops. From the moment you open your eyes, the noise begins. Your inner dialogue is like a non-stop radio playing in the background of your mind, often without your conscious permission. And just like a radio, the more you listen, the more the signal strengthens until it drowns out everything else. You might not notice it at first, but if you pay close attention, you'll realize that your mind is constantly working against you. Every moment, every feeling, every encounter is analyzed and judged. There's a thought for everything, and often, that thought is filled with doubt, fear, or regret. That's where the problem lies. We believe that these thoughts define us, but in truth, they are not the essence of who we are. They are simply fragments of our past, memories and judgments that we continue to replay in an endless loop. We live in a prison built from our own thoughts. The myth of control. Most of us believe that by thinking, we can control our lives. That the more we analyze, the more prepared we'll be. But overthinking doesn't lead to control, it leads to paralysis. The more you think, the more you distance yourself from the present moment, from the reality that is unfolding right now. Instead of experiencing life as it is, you're caught in a web of mental projections, playing out every scenario that could happen, but never does. You start believing that your thoughts are guiding you, when in reality, they're keeping you trapped in the past or the future. But what if the key to truly living is not in controlling your thoughts, but in letting them go? Breaking free. When you stop thinking for just a moment, when you give your mind a rest, you will begin to notice something incredible. You start to feel the world more deeply. You hear the wind rustling through the trees. You feel your heartbeat. You notice the taste of your food, the warmth of the sun, the rhythm of life happening right in front of you. That's when the shift begins. Not because you thought your way into it, but because you let go of the noise, because you allowed silence to lead you. This is just the beginning of the journey, and trust me, the rest is more profound than you could imagine. Transition. So what happens when you stop thinking? When you silence that voice in your head and simply be? Let's dive into this deeper. You think you're in control. You think that every decision you make, every move you take, is carefully calculated. But what if the reality is much different? What if your constant thinking is not a tool of control, but a trap that keeps you running in circles? The truth is, most of us believe that by thinking, we can shape our future. We think that planning, overanalyzing, and anticipating will somehow lead to success. But all that really does is create a false sense of control, a control that never really existed. The addiction to thinking. From the moment we wake up, the race begins. We start calculating, we start worrying, we start predicting, and all of it is fueled by fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of failure, fear of regret. Every time you try to control your life with your thoughts, you're feeding an addiction. You're addicted to the idea that thinking will give you the answers, that it will make you safe. But here's the paradox. The more you think, the more trapped you become. It's like you're spinning on a treadmill that's constantly accelerating. But no matter how fast you run, you're going nowhere. This is the illusion of control. The mind's endless loop. Have you ever caught yourself replaying a conversation over and over again? Maybe you worried about something that hasn't even happened yet, or you played out a scenario in your head 100 times, each time with a slightly different outcome. This is what happens when the mind is left unchecked. It creates loops. It runs scenarios that never unfold the way you imagine, but still, you go over them again and again. You try to plan for every possible outcome. You try to predict the future, even though the future is impossible to predict. And in doing so, you rob yourself of the present moment. The power of letting go. What if, instead of trying to control everything, you simply allowed life to unfold on its own terms? What if you stopped anticipating the next step and simply took the one in front of you without fear or second guessing? Letting go of the need to control doesn't mean giving up. It means trusting. Trusting that things will work out as they, are meant to. Trusting that your life isn't a series of carefully orchestrated plans, but an unfolding story that's far beyond your limited perspective. By surrendering the need to think about every detail, you free yourself from the burden of control. And in that freedom, something amazing happens. You start to experience life as it really is, without the filters of fear, doubt, or worry. The first step toward freedom, when you stop overthinking, you begin to realize that you never needed to control everything in the first place. The more you let go, the more you allow life to guide you. And when you let life lead, you start seeing the beauty in the unexpected. You start noticing the serendipity, the flow, the synchronicity of it all. The first step to freedom isn't found in the mind. It's found in releasing the need to constantly control. It's in trusting that sometimes the best way to navigate life is to simply be present, without judgment, without fear, without thought. And that's when the real transformation begins. Transition. So what happens when you stop trying to control every aspect of your life? What lies on the other side of this surrender? Let's explore it further. Have you ever been so absorbed in a moment that time seemed to disappear? Maybe it was a conversation, a walk in nature, or a piece of music that pulled you into a world without thoughts. For that brief moment, you didn't have to analyze, plan, or worry. You were simply there. What if that feeling of pure presence, free from thought, isn't a rare occurrence but something you can access anytime? What if it's not about thinking less but letting go completely? The power of being present. In our daily lives, we're constantly distracted by the mind. We're chasing after thoughts, what we need to do, what we should have done, what could go wrong. We live in the future or the past, and rarely in the present. And yet, the only place where life truly exists is now. Think about the moments you've felt most alive. Chances are, you weren't thinking at all. You were simply experiencing. You were feeling the warmth of the sun on your skin, listening to the sound of laughter, or witnessing a beautiful sunset. In those moments, the mind went silent, and in that silence, life revealed its richness. This is the magic of the present. It's always available, but you can't access it if your mind is constantly chattering. When you let go of thinking, you enter a state of pure being, a state where everything comes to life, breaking the cycle of thought. We've all experienced those moments when we're so absorbed in the now that time fades away. But for most of us, those moments are fleeting. The mind quickly grabs hold again, pulling us back into its endless narrative. But what if you could step out of the cycle of thought on purpose? What if you could experience the world without the filter of judgment, planning, and fear? To stop thinking isn't to empty your mind, it's to release control over it. It's to stop reacting to every thought that comes your way. It's to stop following every mental thread and instead to rest in the moment, just as it is. What happens when the mind goes quiet? When you silence your mind, you make space for something deeper to emerge. You create a gap between thought and awareness, a space where true clarity resides. In this gap, you realize that you don't have to think to experience. You don't have to plan to be. Suddenly, life becomes vibrant, sharp, and full of possibility. Colors are more vivid. Sounds are more distinct. And you start to see patterns and connections that you never noticed before. The mind may not be present, but you are. The shift in perception. This shift doesn't just affect your awareness. It transforms the way you perceive the world. You begin to realize that the thoughts you were clinging to were just a small part of the bigger picture. They were never the full story. When you stop thinking, you reconnect with the essence of life. You stop seeing the world through the lens of judgment and expectation. Instead, you begin to experience it as it truly is, raw, unfiltered, and alive. This shift isn't just a mental exercise, it's a profound transformation that shifts your entire perspective. Transition. Now you might be wondering, what else changes when you stop thinking? What do you gain, and more importantly, what do you lose? Let's explore this next. What if everything you've been taught about success, happiness, and meaning is wrong? What if all the answers you've been searching for aren't in your thoughts, but in the stillness that exists when you stop thinking? You've spent your entire life chasing thoughts, gathering information, planning for the future. But no matter how much you acquire, it never seems to be enough. You find yourself stuck in a cycle, constantly striving for more clarity, more control, more certainty. But here's the truth. Everything changes when you stop thinking. This is the point of no return, the moment when you stop seeking answers and start living them. The moment when the search for meaning ends and true freedom begins. The end of the search-in. Our society, we've been conditioned to believe that the mind is our greatest tool, that we must think, plan, and control every aspect of our lives in order to be successful, to be happy, to be fulfilled. But what if the real truth is that thinking isn't the key to fulfillment? It's the obstacle that stands in the way of it. You may have spent years or even decades chasing answers, always asking why and how. But when was the last time you truly sat with the question without trying to solve it? When was the last time you let go of the need to understand, to control, and simply experienced life? The truth is, the more you think, the further you get from real answers. You bury yourself in mental noise, and in doing so, you miss the deeper truth that lies beneath the surface. It's like standing in a crowded room, trying to hear the softest whisper, but all you can hear is the chaos around you. But when you stop thinking, when you silence the noise, that whisper becomes clear. That is the moment of awakening. The illusion of control. We live in a world obsessed with control. We control our schedules, our finances, our careers, and even our relationships. We believe that by managing every detail of our lives, we can avoid pain, failure, and uncertainty. But the truth is, we can't control life. The more you try to control every detail, the more you suffocate the possibility of true freedom. And the more you think, the more your mind creates stories about what's going wrong, what could go wrong, and how you can fix it. This is the prison of the mind. In trying to control everything, you only create more chaos. Every time you try to think your way to peace, you end up more tangled in worry and confusion. But the moment you stop thinking, you stop trying to control. You begin to surrender to life as it is, not as you want it to be, but as it truly is. And in that surrender, you discover freedom. The beauty of surrender doesn't mean giving up. It means giving in to what is. It means letting go of your expectations, your judgments, and your need for answers. It's about stepping away from the constant need to analyze and control, and instead trusting the flow of life. When you stop thinking, you stop resisting the present moment. You stop fighting what is, and instead, you embrace it. In that moment of surrender, you experience life as it truly is, fluid, dynamic, and ever-changing. This is the beauty of living without thinking. You move with life, not against it. You trust the process, knowing that you don't need to control everything to enjoy it. Life becomes a dance, not a battle. Reconnecting with your true self, when you silence the mind, you rediscover who you truly are. You stop identifying with the thoughts that swirl in your head, and instead, you reconnect with the core of your being. Without the noise of judgment and fear, you can finally hear your own voice, the voice of your soul. It's not the voice of your past, your conditioning, or your fears. It's the voice that has been waiting to speak all along, but it could never be heard through the clutter of the mind. This is where true peace is found, not in the mind, but in the stillness beyond it. You start to realize that who you are is not your thoughts. You are something deeper, something more profound. And in that realization, you begin to experience life not as a problem to solve, but as a gift to be embraced. The shift in perspective. When you stop thinking, everything changes. You begin to see life in a new light. The things that once seemed important, the achievements, the possessions, the goals, lose their grip on you. You stop chasing after things, and instead, you start living in the moment. You begin to see the beauty in the smallest details, the way the light falls on a leaf, the sound of a bird singing, the taste of your food. These moments, which once seemed insignificant, are now full of meaning. The shift in perspective is subtle, but it's profound. You realize that life is not about accumulating more, it's about appreciating what's already here. You stop measuring your worth by your thoughts, your accomplishments, or your possessions. You start to see yourself as part of a larger whole, connected to everything around you. Living without thought. The goal is not to stop thinking entirely. It's about knowing when to stop. The mind has its purpose, but it doesn't need to dominate your entire life. There are times for thinking, and there are times for being. The more you practice silence, the more you begin to understand when to step back and allow life to flow without interference. Living without thought means being present in each moment, experiencing life without judgment, and letting go of the need to control. It means trusting that life will unfold as it's meant to, without you having to manage every detail. It's about accepting the uncertainty, the imperfection, and the mystery of life, knowing that in that uncertainty, there is freedom. You don't have to know everything. You don't have to control everything. You only have to be. The call to freedom. Everything changes when you stop thinking. Not because you've found all the answers, but because you've stopped searching for them. You've stopped letting your thoughts define who you are, and instead, you've embraced the present moment. When you stop thinking, you stop resisting. You stop trying to make life something it isn't. You start to see the beauty in the mess, the perfection in the imperfection, and the peace in the chaos. So the question is, are you ready to let go of the mind? Are you ready to stop thinking your way to happiness and start living your way to peace? Final call to action. The answers you've been seeking were never in your mind. They've always been waiting for you in the silence.